At Psych with Mike, we have a centralized location where all of our episodes are, and that's psychwithmike.com. But that's not the only way that you can get the show. The show is available pretty much anywhere that you download podcasts. So you can go to your preferred podcast provider and subscribe to Psych with Mike there. If you find one that we're not available on, please let us know here at the show, because I would love to correct that. But go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the show there. And while you're there, leave us a comment and rate us. That is so incredibly beneficial to the show, and we would really appreciate it. And if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike. So I'm going to resolve to be a better technical supervisor.
I'm going to resolve to catch you in an embarrassing moment.
Welcome into the Psych with Mike library. This is Dr. Michael Mahan. I'm here with Mr. Brett Newcomb.
Good morning. I knew you were going to do that.
No, I was going to
catch me
while you were drinking.
Mouthful of coffee. Yeah.
You didn't. I think you heard me talking.
I thought you were going to go slower.
Oh,
you
slow.
often are slower.
I'm often
You are often slow. Yeah.
Well, it actually was not intentional to catch you drinking coffee, but I am mighty glad I did.
Yeah, the net effect is always positive.
So we want to say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This actually will drop on the 1st of January.
Cool.
So that's going to be,
It's
I'm making a
just
promise.
shows adequate planning on the part of our
I was just going to
technical-
say, I'm making a promise that I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep. But the plan is that this is going to drop on January 1st. And so
Remember, January 1st is 24 hours.
it will be a new year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm very confident that I will be able to achieve this goal, and that it actually won't even be a problem at all. But what it means is that when people are listening to this, 2020 will be in the rearview mirror. 2021 is in the windshield, and the vaccines now have been being disseminated for the better part of 2 weeks. That we are looking forward to the inauguration of a new president, and that people are feeling very hopeful.
Yes.
We were talking about that message last week, the message of hope. But in this period, so the first couple of days of the new year, people want to make all kinds of resolutions. How do you feel about that?
I don't really.
Do you ever make a New Year's resolution?
No.
Okay. So
That was my New Year's resolution I made
5 years ago.
50 years ago.
that you're not going to make
Don't make them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to lie, there have been many times when I have made a New Year's resolution and found that I was not very good at following through.
Well, it is important to have marker points to shoot for, to hang a hook on, to say, well, by this time, by the summer solstice, I'm going to have this in place in my life. And then we can measure against something, and human beings need to measure against something. And the history of man has basically been about setting these marker points, such as the new year, the beginning of the new year. The ancient Romans used to have a bacchanalia at the end of the year, and they'd have like a month where they'd celebrate and party and do all kinds of things, because the year had been divided into so many evenly numbered months. But the year is for the sun to rotate, or the earth to rotate around the sun, it's 365 and a quarter days. So it doesn't subdivide evenly. So they would say, okay, at the end we'll just have a party, and then after the party and during the party time, all the rules are off. You don't have to. If you're married, it doesn't matter. If you're doing criminal things, you can get forgiven. Life's going to be good. We're going to party, and then we're going to start clean, and all the systems will be new and fresh. So the New Year's tradition is a pagan tradition carried forward. So,
but there is this, what appears to be, whether it's coded in our DNA, but some inherent belief on the part of human beings that there is something special or symbolic about a new fresh start somehow. Because we say that all the time. Well, I'm going to get a fresh start. I'm going to move to California. I'm going to get a fresh start.
Geographical cure, they call that in the AA.
And so there is something in the zeitgeist of us as individual, as a species, that this fresh start thing.
Well, because look at the negative. The obverse of that is to say you're a loser. You'll always be a loser. You'll never get anything right. You're screwed. So how do you have hope? Because you know you're still going to be a loser. The idea that, but now I can get a fresh start. I can clean the slate. I can go out and be different than I am. I'll meet different people. I'll make different friends. I mean, how many times have you fought that battle with somebody that's got an addiction, and they come out of an environment where that addiction is perpetrated and supported, and they get treatment and care, and they break the chemical dependency on it, but then they go back into that same environment that they came out of, and they reestablish the addiction almost immediately.
And even with something that isn't seen as much of a destructive choice as chemicals, but even just dieting. So people say, I'm going to go on a diet. And
we're all saying that.
Yeah. And then that usually is not very effective. So let's just go up front. Statistical studies show that 80% of all New Year's resolutions are going to be off the charts within the first couple of weeks. So if you have a history of making New Year's resolutions, and
you only have to hold on to them for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
way in the rearview mirror.
But the point is that if you have had that experience, don't be down on yourself. That is usually what happens. Most New Year's resolutions are not kept. And even though that's the case, because I think people know this already.
Oh, they do. If you lock your sense of self-worth into, I'm going to lose 20 pounds by spring, so my daughter's getting married, and I got to get into a size 7 dress, you're going to fail. If you haven't lived that lifestyle for your whole life, then you're not going to get down to a size 7.
But I also wonder, though, why, if people are so aware that these things aren't effective,
dishonest.
Then why do they just every New Year's make that resolution?
Hope springs eternal.
No, hope springs eternal.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there are things that people can do to give themselves a better chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to find the right aphorism, to believe in, to hit your wagon to a star. Yeah.
Well, no,
cream rises to the top.
That's not
crap floats.
That is true. Do you know why?
I would imagine it has something to do with the porosity of
it
and the amount of air in it.
It has to do with the density,
yeah.
That it's less dense than water.
Yeah.
But I don't think that those things are what make people successful, but there are things that can make a person successful. So,
in achieving a New Year's resolution, or just in life?
Well, see, that would be my first point, is that if you stop calling it a New Year's resolution and just say, I have a goal, that actually significantly increases the probability that you'll be able to be successful.
Will be known for the content of their character, not the color of their
skin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's exactly what I'm talking about. But,
okay, I was wondering.
But if you make a goal and so first off, let's think of it in terms of making a goal rather than a New Year's resolution. So if a human being were going to make a goal and they were going to be successful at achieving that goal, what do you think would be the important criteria for making that happen?
Set a realistic, reachable,
that is
small
the single
goal.
Most important aspect. Absolutely. So you can't say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to lose 1 pound this week.
I'll never sin again. I'm going to be a moral person. No, you have to set a realistic, reachable, measurable.
Right.
It has to be objectively measurable.
Right.
Because you have to be able to verify it. I mean, we deal with this all the time when we treat depression. You have to set little goals. I will take a shower 3 days out of 7 this week. And if I do that, I've reached my goal. Next week I'll set a different goal. Maybe I'll go to 4 days.
And so then the individual's tendency is going to be to
negate.
Yeah. I can't even do that.
Well,
I'm so bad.
or they'll do it, and then they'll say, "Well, that's
That
not.
didn't
How
mean
can
anything.
I get credit for getting out of bed and taking a shower? That's just what a normal human being does."
Yeah.
No, that's what
No,
you are.
then you say, as a therapist, see, you're that much better already.
Yeah.
Because a month ago, that was too heavy a lift for you. When we talked about it, you couldn't even conceptualize it. Now you're on the other side of it, and you're looking back saying, well, that wasn't anything. Let's find a real step. All right, let's find the next step. What can you do this week that you didn't do last week?
Right, but we're assuming that they're not
Cook 3 meals.
that they're not in super high quality insight based psychotherapy with you and I.
Oh, let's don't assume that.
That's
how we go home feeling good about ourselves.
No, but I'm just saying that if you don't have that therapist as a touchstone, you have to be able to give yourself that kind of credit.
Well, but I think objective feedback from a valued source is a critical ingredient. Whether that's a mother or a father or a next door neighbor, a husband or wife, somebody that can be a real, not an empty, oh, you're so wonderful cheerleader, but a reality-based cheerleader. I see your struggle. I am proud of your accomplishment. That's why in therapy, it is so critical that the therapist is able to give genuine, honest feedback, reflective listening. I hear this in what you say. I see this in how you behave. It makes more difference in the client's ability to change than any intellectual BS I can throw out there. That's just all blah, blah, ginger. That's just noise.
So would you encourage somebody who is, we're going to stop saying New Year's resolution, making a new goal, that they seek out some form of realistic
affirmation,
feedback and affirmation?
Yeah.
So even if they're not
some
in therapy,
affirming
find someone
yes.
who can give that to you.
Yes.
Okay. So then if somebody were to say, well, I just don't have anybody in my life, would you accept that, or would you say, no, you do have somebody in your life? What would you say to somebody who said, well, I just don't have anybody in my life that could do that?
I would say more about that. Let's talk about the people in your life. And then I would suggest possibly, what about a next door neighbor? I mean, not somebody that they even think of as significant in their life right now, but maybe, if there's somebody down the street that you give a smile to and a hello to when you go for a walk around the block, that may mean something to them that you have no idea about.
Well, but
especially if they live alone.
Can I get affirmation from that person? What if I don't trust that person? What if there's nobody I trust?
Well, let's define affirmation. If I look at you, if I encounter you on the street, and your eyes light up and smile, that's affirmation. And it's not you're saying, oh my God, you're the best looking thing I've ever seen, or you're the smartest guy I know. But the fact that you respond positive to me non-verbally is an affirmation.
So 55% of all New Year's resolutions are health-based. So either I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to go on a diet. And then 12% are debt-based. So the overwhelming majority fall into...
I'm sorry, did you say debt or death?
Debt. I'm going to get out of debt.
All right. Okay.
And so the 75% of all of these resolutions have something to do with either physical activity or getting out of debt.
Yeah, but that's because they're New Year's. That's that whole start over, get a clean slate thing.
Yeah.
What we're talking about really isn't New Year's resolutions. It's just about making positive resolutions that have a chance of success because they're not big global life-changing things. They're little bitty steps that you can take to get towards a goal.
But even if we just look at, let's just say the exercise one. Okay, so I'm going to make a goal that I'm going to exercise more. So the first thing is...
How much more?
Exactly. You got to operationalize what you're talking about. So I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes, 3 days a week. Yeah. That's how I'm going to start out.
So, and if you have an Apple Watch, it'll tell you. You set a goal on it, 30 minutes a day. And it'll buzz your arm and say, hey, stand up. You know, I mean, it has a goal for standing.
Any smartwatch today will do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's an Apple Fitbit or whatever.
There's technology available to assist you in setting realistic goals.
Your phone will do that even if you don't have the watch.
Attention for them. So part of it is use the technology that's available. Use the tools that come readily to hand for many of us, if not most of us.
And if you've never been to a gym, then don't make the goal, I'm going to go and work out with weights 3 days a week. You can exercise for 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week by walking around the block.
I'm going to carry 1 case of beer up from the basement every day this week.
Okay. I mean, Now the problem is that if you are going to drink that beer, then you're
that's
probably
a different
nullifying.
Goal. It's a different goal.
Yeah. Well, but you're going to consume more calories than you're burning if you're going to drink all that beer.
Exactly.
But so when we're talking about setting a goal, we're talking about setting realistic goals, and we're talking about being able to
A realistic goal. I'm not going to eat more than 2 gallons of ice cream this week. So you have to frame it positively, not as a negative.
I was just going to say, but if you do that, if you said, my goal is to not eat 2 gallons of ice cream every week, now, probably you're not actually eating 2 gallons of ice cream.
But I would encourage them to turn it around. Say, I will eat 1 quart of ice cream in the next 3 days. Because if you have a propensity to eat a half a gallon, or you worry that you average 2 gallons a week, instead of saying, I'm going to not do 2 gallons a week.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying always frame the goal in a positive,
achievable, measurable, specific.
No, that's really good. That's really good.
I'm good at this. I'm a professional.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
You're better than me.
I didn't say it, but I was very careful not to say it because I didn't want to hurt you.
No, I say it. You have always been my mentor, so I don't ever want to live in a world where I can't believe that you're better than me.
Oh, good. I don't want you to live in that world either.
But that's actually a really, really good point that I'd never thought of before. Always framing that in a positive, so even if you're like a diet-based goal, you're saying, I'm going to eat a quart of ice cream this week, which people would say, well, don't say you're going to eat a quart, because what if you don't eat the quart? Well, then you've done even better.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you're not eating a gallon. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, let's go to our break, and we'll pick this up on the other side. Hey, Brett, if you were going to tell somebody to check out something on the internet to help them with their mental health, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them to listen to Psych with Mike.
Why would you tell them that?
Because it's probably one of the most easily listenable experiences you can have that will give you information that's useful for a whole spectrum of concerns that people have.
I agree, and I have actually been told that by at least a dozen people, several of whom were not married to me, and some of them didn't even know me.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. It's when we get that kind of feedback from people, it is so incredibly humbling and overwhelming for me.
It is for both of us.
Yeah. So we really appreciate it, and as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike. All right, we're back, and so so I've got a goal. I want to exercise more. I've operationalized that. I'm going to work out 30 minutes a day, 3 days this week.
I'd lock it down more specifically.
Okay.
When you say operationalize that, I'm going to work out 30 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. All right, set a 30-minute time frame in your clock. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. I'm going to do 10 push-ups. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do 5 sit-ups. I'm going to walk for half a mile. Mm-hmm. You have to have specific, measurable, segmented goals that you can check off your list. Mm-hmm. If you set that global goal, I'm going to work out for half an hour, then you're going to be like, did that count? I climbed 3 flights of stairs. Did that count?
Right. So that my half an hour started before I started up the stairs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would encourage them, if they're going to approach it that way, break it down even more specifically into bites. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of data out there about dieting and goals for dieting and stuff. And one of the things that they very commonly say is use small plates, not big plates.
Yeah.
Use a 6-inch plate, not a 12-inch plate.
Right.
Serve from the pan on the stove a reasonable amount, because psychologically you need your plate to look full. Mm-hmm. So if you go and serve your 6-inch plate from the stove and you don't put bowls of food on the table, you are more likely to be able to reach your goal. Mm-hmm. Then you have to teach them about put your fork down between bites. Don't hold it in your hand, cocked and loaded with ready for the next bite to shove in.
Right.
Put it down. Mm-hmm. So you put it down. Then if you think you want seconds, go for a walk around the block before you go back to the stove. Those kinds of specific behavioral modifications allow you to make progress. If you set that global goal, I'm just going to eat less, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I may eat less beets and cauliflower. I'm going to eat more mashed potatoes and gravy.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, one thing that I really, really encourage people to do if they're going to have a food-based goal, that you never call it a diet.
Right.
Because diets are horribly ineffective. And so you have to consider any changes in the way you are consuming food as a lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
It isn't a diet. It isn't something that you're going to do for a period of time. You're going to change this. Like if you say, I'm going to eat healthier, and as you say, then you have to operationalize that. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to eat vegetables at every meal when I've never done that before.
Right.
I mean, even if you just did that, you would change the way you consume calories.
Absolutely.
And people don't
it's
realize
a step in the right direction.
Right. I mean, if you're not used to making a vegetable at every meal, right, and then you start doing that, number one, you're going to have that on your plate. It's going to take up space. Number two, you're going to consume that, so it's going to be in your stomach. And number three, it's going to take space away from what you might have put on your plate, which would have been additional mashed potatoes.
And then there are ancillary decisions that you can make that positively impact that. When you go to the grocery store, don't pick up a bag of chips. Just come home without them. So that they're not in the house for you to say, well, I'm hungry, but I don't want to fix a whole meal. I'll just eat some chips.
Right.
People destroy their progress, even if they're eating vegetables every day. If they have a bag full of Hershey's little chocolate tidbits, because they'll get, 3 of those. And so they eat 3 of those. It's a mistake.
Well, so if you're going to have those kinds of snacks in the house, then I didn't know this, but I was talking to a dietitian, and what she said was, if you go buy a thing of Oreos, and now, a lot of people would then eat the whole sleeve of Oreos, right? But then instead of leaving them in the Oreo container, get a bunch of those snack bags and break them down so that you only have 2 Oreos in a snack bag, and then you can go and just grab one snack bag. Right, and then that makes you more cognizant of what you are consuming. Because if you're just sitting in front of the TV eating a sleeve of Oreos,
and then you go back and you think, well, there's only 3 sleeves left. I may as well just eat all those and start over.
Right.
No, I mean, we get our own way, and our unconscious pushes us to do the things that we want to do, and we're trying to impose a standard on it that we really fight ourselves against. What you and I know, what therapists know, is that progress comes in small, digestible bites, measurable, accountable steps. That's how you have behavioral change. So that's what we would encourage people to do.
And that no step is too small to be affirmed. Just, because we've talked about this before, when we're talking to depressed people, we say, just take a shower 3 days this week. And then they do that and they say, oh, well, that's not worth anything because any normal person should be able to get up and take a shower. No. It is a big deal. If you were incapable of taking a shower and now you've showered 3 days this week, that is definitive progress. Even small progress is progress.
People want to do comparative misery.
Yeah.
And they want to come in and say, I live alone. I have a dog. My dog died. I'm grieving that, and that loneliness is really intense, and I feel bad. But I look at my next door neighbor, and her husband died. So I shouldn't be talking to you about this. I mean, this is not a big deal. And so I want to diminish my issue because I know somebody down the road that has a bigger issue. I used to talk to people all the time. You can't do comparative misery. What hurts, hurts.
Well,
you had a loss. Let's talk about that. Let's feel that.
Your problems are the biggest problems that you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no reason, you don't have to apologize for the fact that the trauma in your life is traumatic to you.
You need to not apologize. You need to acknowledge, hey, this hurt. I love that dog, and it's gone, and I miss it, and I'm sad, and my life is less good because it's gone.
And scientific studies, these aren't even, just pseudoscience, scientific studies show conclusively that people get just as attached to their animals as they do to their children. So there is no reason for that
My parents did.
comparison to be made. Yes. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
But the point is that there's no reason for that comparison to be made, because that loss is just as real and just as intense for you as the woman who lost her husband.
Which is why it's important to feel it and cry it out and cleanse it by expression. If you swallow it in, if you lock it in, if you diminish it and you say, oh, it doesn't have real value, it's not a real loss. I mean, somebody else lost all their money, their retirement money. At least I got that. If you do that kind of stuff, you don't get any better. You get better when you say, that hurt, that sucked, I really hate that. But now I can breathe.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you up front, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
And I'll tell you, I never do.
Okay. That you never answer it?
I never answer if I don't want to.
Yeah, okay. If you were going to make a resolution or a goal for 2021, do you have something in mind that you've been thinking about?
Yeah. My goal is to travel as much as I can.
Well, you already do that.
Well, so there you go.
I don't know how
Why would that be something new? You asked me to come up with something.
I do not know how you could be more successful with that than what you already are.
There are miles to go before I sleep.
Yes, there are.
Quote Robert Frost. Yeah, the road not taken. There's a lot of those. I drive down the highway and I think, I've never been down that road.
So I'm just going to drive down it?
Sometimes I do, yes.
Do you
My
remember?
wife goes crazy sometimes because we're traveling somewhere and that we somewhat regularly go to see some relatives. We were passing this road, and I said, down that road is a beautiful blah, blah, blah. And she said, you say that every time we come past here. I got off the exit and said, let's go see. Because in 35 years, she'd never been down that road. So I took her.
Is there a little, do you see a little test tube with some gray?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Do you know what that's from?
That's from when we went out west to see the Mount St. Helens explosion. Yeah. And you scooped those up when they told you not to.
I did. Well, they
said, don't steal any of our dust.
Yeah.
You looked up with a grin on your face like, me?
The way, though, the way that we found that was we were driving out of the preserve, and there was a road.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
And you said, oh, we should see what's down this road.
Goes. Yeah.
And we did, and about 1,000 yards into this really heavily wooded area, the road just broke up and disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, it was this paved road.
Yeah.
And it just 1,000 yards into the woods, it just broke up and it was gone.
The mountainside came down on top of the rest of it. Yeah.
So then we went down to, there was a river that was running a couple of yards away. We went down to this river, and and it was all gray and moonscapey.
I remember clearly.
And that was where I scooped that stuff up, and I brought it home through the Portland airport, thinking the entire time
that
someone was going.
Yeah,
no, I thought I was going to get busted. I thought somebody was going to find that ash, and they were going to bust me. But they were selling
radioactive or something. Yeah.
They were selling little 5-gram bottles of this ash in the gift shops,
or at least
for
what
like
they
$50.
said was ash.
Yeah,
it actually, those came out of their local crematorium.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So we have and I made one of those for everybody that was on the trip.
I remember that you did. I still have mine.
And so we have actual ash from Mount St. Helens. And if you are a nature park preserve ranger, you didn't hear that from me. But I was
but it's that whole
terrified.
Go down the road not taken.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love to do that.
I would never have had that experience if we hadn't gone down that road. And I think about that all the time, and I tell that story all the time because it just was it made such an indelible impression on me. I'll never forget that. Yeah. And if people don't take that road, you will never have those experiences.
You'll have other experiences.
You'll have others.
Yeah.
Right. But coming back to the resolution thing, so I've been thinking about this, and for a long time, I have said that I would like to author a book, right?
Yeah.
And so if I were going to say to you, okay, Brett, you're my therapist, and I would like to have, because that's a fairly grand goal.
Yeah.
Right. So then if I were going to do something that were that big, what would you say are the first steps to being successful?
I had this conversation with somebody one time
at
a party. A young teenage girl whose ambition, as she articulated it, was to grow up and become a writer. Mm-hmm. And as she projected maybe write magazine articles or write a book or write whatever, but she wanted to be a writer. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, writers write. How much are you writing now?
Exactly. Zero.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I said, start writing every day.
Right.
Write something. What I did today.
I have not written, well, I don't remember if the book at West County came out before or after I wrote I think it came out before.
Before.
So I have not written anything seriously since my dissertation.
So then you don't want to be a writer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, now
you may want to.
I may want to
be a writer,
but I am not doing anything.
I want to be. Yeah.
You can't have a goal that you're not doing anything to achieve. Then that's not your goal. So get off it.
Yeah, because you'll be saying, "Well, they won't let me." You don't understand the things that are in the way,
right?
That block me from being able to do that. But otherwise, I would do it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I had a client one time came to me, and it was a first time meeting, so I was just trying to get a feel for what she was there for, and she said, "Oh," because I had asked her, "Oh, what is your identity?" And she said, "Oh, I'm a painter." And I said, "Oh, when was the last time you painted anything?" She said, "Oh, it's been 20 years." I said, "Well, you're not a painter." She got so mad. She never came back and saw me ever again.
Yeah.
And she just said horribly vitriolic things about me because I had challenged that identity, but she wasn't doing anything to make that manifest in her life. So can you be a thing that you aren't doing anything to make real? And I think that we're saying, no, you can't. So if your resolution is to do a thing, you have to be willing to take the steps to make that real in your life.
So I think you just change the language. I think what
Okay.
you do is say, I hope to become this person. Because then I can say, well, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And if you became a writer, what would be different in the way you're living today and the way you'd be living tomorrow? Well, I'd have a diary. I'd write 1,000 words a day. I'd write 100,000 words a month about something. And then I would be a writer. Now, a published writer is a different thing.
Is a different thing, right?
Yeah,
That's exactly
but
right.
You got to start by being a writer.
Right.
So let's again break it down into digestible bites.
But you have to be willing to do
But not
the
give
things.
them the negative. I mean, I wouldn't say, "Oh, you're not a writer." I might say, "You're
Okay.
not a writer now."
Yeah,
it's like they used to say in people trying to quit smoking. "I'm not smoking today," instead of "I quit," because as soon as you pick up a cigarette, you've lost all that you gained. My whole definition of myself as a non-smoker is gone because now here I have a cigarette. So what you say is, "I'm not smoking today." Maybe I'll smoke tomorrow. Maybe I won't. My goal is to not.
Right. Which is the same way you go about
It's a reachable, measurable
not doing drugs.
goal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing about being a writer or about being a musician.
Right.
Do you play an instrument? Well, no. Radio, does that count? Well, maybe.
Maybe if you're learning how to play your guitar, listen to the radio.
Or again, realistically, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to sing. And I mean, who doesn't want to come out on stage and have 10,000 screaming fans, throwing money at them and stuff? When I was in school, I was in the school choir, and the choir director called me aside and said, "Son, you can't sing." "Oh, go ahead and laugh. It hurt my feelings. You have no compassion." She said, "We're going to do our Christmas concerts. You are going to lip sync."
60 years ago?
Yeah, I still remember it.
Okay.
But what I learned from that was be a disc jockey on the radio station. I could talk. I could play the music. I could be part of the music industry. But I wasn't going to be the star on stage.
So what you're saying is that even
There
if
may
you
be
have
another
a goal,
path forward.
Yeah. And so you have to be open to
Yes.
that evolving. And
Because somebody
just
came along and
because
said,
a
"I
door
need somebody
closes
to work at my radio station.
doesn't
Would
mean
you
that there
consider
hasn't been another
doing
door
that?"
opened. Yeah.
I said, "Oh, hell yes."
Yeah.
So I became a disc jockey.
But we're on the same page that if
Yeah.
you're going to make a goal, you have to be willing to do the things to make that manifest in your life.
And open to what that might be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And open to it evolving.
Well, it's like the old story they tell about Christmas, and somebody's waiting for Jesus to come on Christmas Eve. And they got their house all cleaned up, and they got food all fixed and whatever, and a homeless person comes and knocks on the door.
Oh, I know.
And they said, "Oh, here's $10, go away. I've got
stinky,
a
I don't
company
want you."
coming."
Yeah.
So then they get it ready, and nobody comes, and somebody knocks on the door, and it's some little couple of kids that are lost, and you call the cops and have them taken away. And it's like 3 times. So then they fall asleep. They wake up the next morning, food's still there, Jesus never came, and they get down on their knees and they're praying. And they're like, why in the hell didn't you come? I made myself special for you. I made my dinner for you. I waited for you to come. You were going to come. You said, I came 3 times.
Yeah.
I came 3 times.
You slammed the door in my face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's the same old saw. You've got to be open to the possibilities and find a way to make them work. And you may not get the initial fantasy ever gratified, but you can get closer than you might expect.
So just to put this all in a nutshell, so small steps, small
Specific,
achievable,
objective, measurable.
Measurable goals or markers, openness to evolution
and modification.
Yeah. And if you can do those 3, I think that's it. Those 3 things right there. If you do those 3
things. So my
things,
New Year's resolution is for everybody that listens to this to just be better. I think Melania Trump said it. Be best.
And on that, we will say Happy New Year. We hope that 2021 is the best year of your lives. And if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.